So basically, I'm first gonna tell you like about my project.
Mm-hmm.
So my teacher told us to do like a storytelling project, but I was like, I'm not really digging that. I don't want to write a story or
Yeah.
something. I was like, I want to more like tell somebody's story. Um, I wanted to do my project on like helping younger kids and like that are realizing their identity and stuff like that. And I realized my project can help people. So that's what I wanted to do. So my first question is how was your upbringing and how did you grow up?
I'd say that my upbringing, especially childhood, was like um, very normal to a sense. Like I felt like I was allowed to express myself, and I had a very accepting family, which was such a bonus because I know it isn't the same for lots of other trans kids, but I feel like there was a kind of shift in how I felt as a child from how like society viewed the things that I would do. Like my mom let me dress up, like I wore dresses at home. I played with the toys I liked, like Barbies and stuff like that. I watched films I liked. My brother didn't care, like my stepdad didn't care, like no one cared. No one like batted an eye at it and said that that was wrong. But once I brought that into the real world and like was bringing my toys with me and seeing how other people treated that, especially like kids at school and just like other adults, especially adults, when you see like an adult say something like, oh, that's not right, like why are you doing that, or they're telling like your parents that that's wrong, then as a kid you kind of process that being like, what am I doing, like what am I doing wrong? So I guess that was kind of the downfall in my childhood. Otherwise everything else was literally just me living in my own little world. And I was really, really naive to the sense I thought that I would just magically um, develop as any other girl would until like puberty came along, and I was just like, yeah, this is not this is not happening for me. So yeah, it was a lot of back and forth and trying to figure out what was. I felt there was something wrong with me. So and there was nothing about being trans. There was literally nothing out there, and it's changed so much. But I'm so glad that kids these days have more information and resources um, because it was literally nothing really. I mean, there was stuff, but it was mostly negative, and it's just crazy how much the shift has changed. But yeah, that was basically my childhood.
Yeah.
I probably have a unique transgender experience because I was born and raised Catholic, and I went to private Catholic school my entire life from pre-K to senior in high school. My parents, my father is Catholic because he was born in Poland and he came to America when he was about 16. My mother is Catholic because she married my father, but she was raised Methodist. And of course, I was raised in the South as well. So there's a lot of that going on. Um, Upbringing wise, though, like my mom has always been my best friend. She's always been an amazing person in my life. Very supportive. Before I even came out to her as like liking girls, I started crying and she was like, "You like girls, don't you?" I was like, "Yes, I do." She's like, "That's okay." And I remember texting her before I came out to her because I want to do it in person. And I was like, "I have something to talk to you about." And then when she got home, we talked, and she said, when you sent me that text, I'm sitting there driving in my car. She had to drive like 30 minutes to get home. And she was like, "Calen's a boy," is what she said out loud. And I will forever speak for women's intuition because it is always on point. And my mom is always right, whether I want to believe it or not.
That
Yeah.
was mine.
Yeah. And, it's funny because my dad's like, I always reference my parents as like, my mom's an angel, my dad's the devil, because it's very accurate. And, they have their own issues, but like, my dad is very much so like the masculine man. So like, I've really come to understand now that like I was probably humbled, and I do still believe in God, even what's happened to me. Um, what's happened to me, the way I was raised, okay, the way I was raised with Catholicism and whatnot. I've come back around to God because if everything happens for a reason, which I do believe, then I was made this way so that I could better understand myself and females. And in this whole generational age of all of us becoming more awoken to other people's problems around us, not just what our struggles are. I would probably be an a-hole if I was born cisgender male. I believe that I'd be exactly like my dad. I would think that, you know, I hung the moon for myself and be like a lot of other cisgender white males who live in our society today. And I'm very, very thankful that I was put in a situation to grow, not to have to reteach myself. So I'm very happy about that. But, you know, other than that, I grew up with a lot of religion in my upbringing, but it has allowed me to be so beaten down by it that I see what I can take from it.
When did you first realize you were trans?
I guess like it was always in my mind as a kid. Like it's not something that I was just like one day I woke up like, oh, I'm trans, like that's me. I guess it was more like when I was as a teen around like 17, 16, I realized when I found more trans information that was me and I could put into words, and everything leading up to that moment made sense. And that was why I felt the way that I did. But it was very much like a defining point where my English teacher at the time, he showed me a like news article of Kim Petras, and it was all about like how she went through gender reassignment surgery at 16. And that information just changed my life because I didn't know that was possible. But from that point onwards, I researched it, and just that knowledge shifted the way that I felt about myself because I could put that into words and be like, yes, I'm trans. And okay, now how do I transition? How do I go about this?
It took me a long time. I actually had a few partners before I actually came to the realization of be like, do you think you're transgender? And I'd be like, no, I had, and like I mentioned earlier with the minority within a minority, when I was just lesbian identifying, I had transphobic tendencies. I had internalized transphobia. I was like, that's ridiculous. I'm all for gay people, but come on, you know? And it's funny how much you hate something that you relate so much to because society's told you that that's a bad thing. So you inherently hate it as much as you would love it. So like I was way against it, until one day I was thinking about it, and the thought of not starting now or else, because I was still within like my puberty range, right? Like my natural first puberty, I was in that. And I thought if I waited until I was 30 to come to this realization, the hormone therapy would not do what it has done for me now. And that thought scared me so much, it made me realize that I am transgender. And I had been following so many transgender guys and all this stuff, being like, wow, wow, wow. But like the thought of waiting until I was 30 and starting testosterone and not even being happy with the results that like hormone therapy would give me because I've realized it so late, like scared the absolute crap out of me. Because I was like, first of all, if I'm having this thought, why would I wait till I'm 30? And then like, second of all, like it sucks that people do have to wait till they're 30 because they were like, grew up in like the 60s or the 70s, and now they're like just now realizing that like it's okay to do that and they can fully make that choice on their own. So it kind of hit me then, and I was like speed running it at that point. I learned everything I could, did everything I could for it.
What were your biggest struggles with your transition?
Biggest struggles was probably just the society aspect, the ways to go about transitioning like isn't easy, and just the reactions, and especially the beginning of a transition isn't usually the easiest for any trans person because it's like that kind of shift on whether like if you're passing or not, which is just scary because it's also dangerous because if you're not passing enough, then you don't know which gender to really try and be for that time, and it can bring you so much dysphoria. So yeah, I would say that. And then just how people still talk and treat trans people. It's getting so much better, but I feel like the discussion is very much about like the politics, and no one really takes in consideration of how trans people actually feel. And it's more like they're just a so like an untouchable thing in like a zoo enclosure, where it's just like no one really thinks about the trans person. They just make the decisions. And that, growing up and trying to wrap my head around that, was something that I struggled with, because I never saw being trans as a respectable, attainable thing, simply because of how people treated trans people in the media and just what I read online and just in general.
Yeah, I definitely just I just wish everything was accepted. It makes me so upset that people just simply won't let people live their lives. I'm just like, you live your life and let them be happy and be who they are. You're who you are. Let them be who they are. It's just
Exactly.
crazy. So
Cool. I know for a lot of trans people, it is like the medical part, but that was pretty smooth for me because there's literally only one endocrinologist in the city that I grew up in, and I went to university, and I had so much knowledge on the fact that he was like, "Yeah, no, I believe you." I went to all school. Um, I had issues with obviously students there because a lot of them are naive, and I say the word ignorant not in a negative way towards them, because the way you're raised, I mean, again, if I was raised slightly different, I probably would have realized it sooner, but that's not my fault, or just generationally. But I had issues with them, especially the males, and I was the first transgender. I was also the first openly gay person at my school in history. And then I set the record not too long after for being the first transgender person openly. I had to deal with, because I went to a private school, there are boy regulations and girl regulations. So I had to deal with, some teachers telling me I couldn't wear this uniform, some teachers telling me that I needed to cut my hair because it was too long for the boys. And then some, the biggest thing actually was bathrooms. At some point, there was an issue with parents and students coming to the dean or whatever and saying that, like, this group doesn't feel comfortable with me in the bathroom, and then this group doesn't feel comfortable in the bathroom. I had not even asked to use the boys' bathroom. I had any of that, and they were already telling me, like, we've got problems. I got called in the middle of class to the dean, to the principal, and they said, okay, so we are actually turning this bathroom into a gender neutral bathroom, and this is the one we want you to use. Where I could go, it's the only single person bathroom. But before there was two single persons, and now they just turned that one into a gender neutral one. And I had to walk. It would take me 5 to 10 minutes because the way my campus layout was, it's an open campus. I had to walk 5 to 10 minutes and get back. And I remember saying, I was like, that's okay with me, as long as, like, you can tell my teachers that, like, I'm not like spending forever in the bathroom. Like, I literally have to use this bathroom. I have to go back and forth, which I don't think they did, because a lot of my teachers were like you took forever in there. I'm like, yeah, it's like a third of my class time. If every class is 45 minutes and I'm spending 10 to 15 walking to and from the bathroom and using it, like, that's a big chunk of my actual class time. But what's cool, and now a lot of students who still go there now and have messaged me, is like they've now made 2 gender neutral bathrooms. So now it's more so a student's choice, like, if you don't feel comfortable going into either one of these, you have these options, which is cool, because along with a lot of change that comes in life, it sucks, but, like, sometimes someone has to take the first step. And, like, I did take the first step so that someone else could maybe be more comfortable without having to go through all of the publicity, which is nice.
yeah, that's definitely a struggle. My school doesn't have any gender neutral bathrooms, and we've had a couple trans kids in our school, and they definitely could I can't obviously speak for them, but they've definitely, from what I've seen, got some backlash from the students, and it's just sad. Friends reacted, so you pretty much had a very supportive support system.
Yeah, luckily I did. And I didn't really come out to them. I just literally started transitioning and they just knew. Like, it wasn't like they were surprised and like, wait, what are you doing? They were just like, okay, like, what's the next steps? Like, how can we help you? And yeah, they were just kind of like, oh, like, I wish that we all knew like earlier, so you could have started that process like as young as possible. But yeah, I was very lucky with not really having much of an issue with that.
That's great. How did your friends and family react to you being trans?
My mom was very supportive. She cried. She was very sad because my mom is super protective, and I know that this kind of ignorance comes from love. She was scared for me because when she looks up transgender on Google, she sees the suicide rate of transgender kids, and it is very high. And she sees all these other things, and I had to sit her down and tell her, like, these things are because these kids weren't supported. These kids didn't get affirmation, they didn't get support, they didn't get love. They never were able to fully see themselves and accept what they had come to even think of as an idea, as an identity for themselves. And like, these are what these statistics are. She was just really scared for me to be different. She wasn't, not accepting of me. She was just, just scared for me. My father, I can't really speak on it because I don't really know, but we have a weird relationship. My friends, I don't really have a lot of close friends, although if you ask anybody, like, I'm friends with everybody, but not everyone knows everything about me. But I'm also not a person who's going to have a dumb, ignorant, naive friend. I'm not going to keep them around because they're funny or because this or that. Like, either they're with me or they're not. So yeah, all my friends when I came out were very supportive. And a lot of them also were like very sad. They're like, I should have seen this coming. Like, I should have known. I'm like, I didn't know. I don't know how I would have expected you to know. So don't hold that against yourself.
When was the first time you truly felt like your true self?
I would say definitely waking up from gender reassignment surgery. I feel like just coming out from the anesthesia and just like being all on all those drugs in hospital, and then just being emotionally attached to that moment. The fact that I waited for a whole year on a waiting list, and it was just something that I wanted forever. And just lying in the hospital being like, wow, like, this is my body now and I get to live my life fully as myself. It just felt at peace and peaceful. So yeah, I'd say then.
That's great.
So this is funny. People talk about gender euphoria a lot. I was in a line at McDonald's and I was in the drive-thru, and they said something, I ordered, and at the end they said, thank you, sir, it'll be whatever, turn around. And that was the first time that anyone who's never interacted with me before, like, actually, like, and identified me as male. And I remember, like, punching the air. You know how you do when you're really excited? I remember punching the air, and that was like my first, like, gender euphoria moment.
Oh. And lastly, what is some advice that you would like to tell people who are transitioning or who are thinking about transitioning?
My best advice would be that just to know that transitioning is an ongoing process. It doesn't need to be a race, and not one transition is exactly the same as someone else's, but we all go at things at our own pace, and doing little things bit by bit is okay as well. And it doesn't need to be rushed, and it doesn't need to be like a copy and paste kind of thing. And it's literally yours, your own. You hold it, you do what you want with it, and don't let anyone else tell you how to transition, because it's not their place to really do that.
I would say to like let yourself explore. Like, don't, what I had issues with, and I said, like, some people try to come to me and tell me, and that's like a thing that I have a personal problem with. Is I can't have someone tell me what I'm thinking, even if I have thought it, I can't. But something that I'm coming to terms with lately is like, you have a million thoughts a day, more, but saying something out loud really solidifies it, especially in your memory and your whatever. It's, you're like, I'm saying this. A voice in your head, you're like, that's a doubt, that's insecurity, that's a conscience, whatever. But when you say something out loud, so like, look in the mirror and say, like, my name is blank, even change it if you want to, and be like, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, I don't identify with either gender, and just like gauge your body's response to that, because your body is your biggest tool to understand your mind in a very weird way, but they're just so linked in that way.
Um, did you want to talk about anything else? Those were all the questions I had came up with. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you would like to talk about?
No. Oh, well, yes. Okay, so I got this tattoo when I started to transition. It's just a wolf and a moon. But it's very poignant in this time, because even if you say, like, you right now, you were to tell me, hey, feeling a little masculine, I feel like I may be transgender, I'd be like, okay. And then if tomorrow, 2 months, 2 years from now, you told me, like, hey, I changed my mind, you're not really changing your mind, you're learning who you are.
Yeah.
The moon and the wolf are both culturally ideas and like symbols of transition and change. The moon goes through a transition every single month, and we still call her beautiful. We look at her and we say, that's awesome. But just because she changes the next night or a month from now, we're not like, oh, you were a waxing gibbous the other day, like I thought you were a full moon all the time. Like, that's so naive to say. We know and understand that phases are a thing. It's a very popular like internet phrase, like, oh, it's not a phase, mom. What if it is? Phases are okay. You can change your mind because you're learning who you are, and that's your greatest destination in life, is to understand yourself. So why not let yourself take steps? And every step is okay. So you can change your mind, you can turn around, you can redirect. All of that is okay. And I hate that it's so frowned upon to not know who you are and what you want to be and all this stuff by the time you graduate high school. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like, you're so young. Everyone has time to discover who they are.